Hi, my name is Mark Monlux. I'm a freelance illustrator in Tacoma, Washington, and you're watching an episode of Epic Sketch Time, the Flu edition. So I'm going to let everybody else talk today and introduce themselves and turn my mic off for the most part.
Let's see. Hi, I'm Bill Morse. I'm a cartoonist and illustrator working out of Seattle, Washington. I do a webcomic called Rhapsodies, which you can find at rhapsodies.wpmorse.com.
My name is Pat McEwen. I do a comic called The Devil and Mr. Gandhi. You can read it at devilandgandhi.com.
Russ, before you take off, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. I am Russ Richards. I am an illustrator based out of Graham, Washington. And yeah, that's what I do. Freelance. There you go. This is what I'm working on right now.
So my plan today is to work on one of my aliens. I just got through doing the foreground coloring for the rain from Planeteros, and I'll show that to you guys in a minute as soon as I have my computer set up to do that. Oh, Pat, what are you working on?
This is just a kind of a weird sketching of a poster design that I've been working on and off for a while. I may start something fresh tonight. So I have an issue. I might as well bring it up live on Epic Sketch Time. I've been using Windows 10 for a while now, and overall I actually like it. But whenever Windows 10 does an update, whether it's something like minor or major, it knocks out the drivers for my scanner, which is unfortunate. So I have to reinstall my scanner drivers every time Windows 10 does an update. And it also knocks out the driver for my stylus. I've come up with a solution that I kind of have I kind of run my tablet driver with like administration privileges. And it's gotten to be a pretty quick fix by this time, but it's still extremely annoying to have to reinstall scanner and stylus drivers every time Windows 10 does an update. I don't like it.
That is a bummer. So I had a friend call me up today, and he says, "Oh, I'm doing a podcast. Can you do a logo for me? My budget's $25."
Ha!
And you know, I don't want to tell him that that's just flat out insulting.
That's when you send them to me. I won't be insulted.
What I did was I said, you know, basically he sent me this piece of art of a bugle, because it's a podcast called the Kryptonite Bugle. And let's see if I can find the artwork he sent me. Yeah, I can't find the artwork he sent me. But that's okay. But I responded to him saying, you know, I basically charge $200 an hour to my regular clients, and when I'm feeling generous, I'll charge $100 an hour to my friends. So let me see if I can do this for you in 15 minutes. And this is what I came up with in 15 minutes. He wanted an alien-looking bugle that was similar to this other piece of bugle artwork that was on this masthead. And anyway, so I did one with a face in it, one without, but here's sort of like, you know, the Superman shape with a couple of little. I know that the difference between a bugle and a trumpet is that a trumpet has the little valves on it. But I figure if you're doing an alien version of a trumpet, all the rules go out the window, right?
I suppose so.
Anyway, terrible logo, but hey, 15 minutes worth of work. He hasn't responded to me whether or not he liked it or not.
Does he really get a choice?
Well, yeah, he can use it or not use it.
Right?
That's the,
You took the money up front, though, right?
no, this was just for something that small. You know, if he ends up paying me, that's fine. But 15 minutes of as-is art, yeah, I'm not gonna really sweat about it.
Sure.
Most of my projects have a $500, you know, or $200 minimum, and it's only with existing clients that I tend to do the 1 hour minimum. Non-existing clients anymore, and I want like a 2 or 3 hour minimum, because you're going to be spending that much time just talking to them about what the project's about. Pardon me, I'm going to turn off my mic and just draw. I can figure out where my mic is.
In there somewhere.
Here we go. So, yeah, I'll let you guys talk amongst yourself and not deal with my raspy voice. So here's my brain from Planeteros.
Oh, that came out well.
Came out, yeah, I was pretty pleased with it. So again, here's my basic levels of construction. Got the line art, my base color. Did some coloring for the eyes. Then rather than going with a strictly a tone layer, I went with a really dark orange. It's actually have it at 100% opacity here. No, I have it. Here is at 100% opacity. I knocked it down to about 65. Then this was a layer of yellow, and I knocked that down to about 60. Then a layer of white that I knocked down to about 70. this was a purple that I did a little bit of gradation for on each side to kind of knock up the top and let it glow a little bit more and bring out those eyes just a bit. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with how that one came out. I think I might apply this technique where I just use like one blend of shading to give it a little bit more depth to the other images. Now I'm trying to decide. Here's the rough coloring I've done for Life Force.
Nice.
Who here has not seen Life Force?
I don't think I've had the pleasure.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen it either.
I, of course, have seen it.
You guys, you have to watch Light Force. It has
That movie has no plot other than there's vampires from outer space.
Oh, you gave away the movie.
That's okay. That's all that you need to know. The movie is so bad.
Oh, come on. It's got some of the best special effects of the 80s in it.
Oh my.
Oh my, yeah. There literally is no plot to that. Like, there's like, even the ending is bad. Like, I don't know.
No, you want a movie without a plot.
Trolls 2?
No.
Oh, okay.
Here we go. This is a horrible movie. A Beast with a Million Eyes. I mean, it is one of the saddest science fiction movies that came out of the 50s that I can possibly think of.
That I've not seen that movie.
Oh, well, I do believe it. If it isn't on Mystery Science Theater 3000, it should be.
Yeah.
But you may want to check the archives because I'm pretty sure they would have covered this one. It is. This isn't even the space monster. This is sort of like one of its slaves, which looks like this little tiny puppet wearing chains inside of like quite possibly the smallest spaceship ever constructed. And it doesn't pop up until the last few minutes of the film. And why it even does so is beyond me.
Hey, Mark.
Yes.
Can I ask you a question?
How did I win over my wife with the sweet melodious voice?
I can wait for another episode of Epic Sketch Time. Last time you were working on a Reanimator piece, and I was wondering what your final decision was on the kind of the complementary color scheme you were deciding on.
Well, let me pull that up. Do you want to see the version with all the logos or the version without the logos?
Without the logos, please. Sorry, I spoke for you.
Oh, I accidentally opened up the
That works.
version. So at one point, I thought about putting on a little bit of a tint of purple into the background black, which you can't really see very well. But if you look really closely, you can see a color change on the black when I hit this button.
Mm-hmm.
Now that would have made a difference when I went to print. This would have looked more purplish on the screen because it's illuminated. You're not seeing that. But instead, I decided just to go with a rich black. And because this blue color was looking so good, I knocked it down to about 78%. But here it is at 100%. Wonderfully garish. And initially, I was only going to go with about a 50% like this, but everyone liked the garishness so much that I decided that I'd up it.
Yeah, I recall preferring the darker blue, which gave it more of a contrast.
Yeah. It certainly can be seen across the room. The yellow was also knocked down significantly because I didn't want it to be a green, but initially I was going to go with a much more mild like say maybe just a 56% yellow, just to get that green tone. But it was actually looking much better as a yellow, so I also gave that a higher contrast.
And Mark, for this particular project, what kind of proof did you see for this? Like an online proof? Did you see a paper proof?
Oh, when I sent it off to get printed?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see any proofs.
Okay.
But I have used the printer before. This one with the logos, I didn't really care about because it's got these logos. And the one that I sent off to the printer, let's see if I can find that one. I did some changes to it. So here's the final that I sent off to get a poster done. Basically, I removed the logo up here and enlarged and centered the reanimator thing. The white border that was existing before, I took that out. That was actually there just so that I could, when I go and take it to the local printer, they need something to grip and grab it.
Yeah.
And then I just removed all the logos on the bottom, and it looks a lot cleaner. But I think it was Comic Ready. Yeah, I'm still waiting for the prints to show up from Comic Ready. I did this, and I also sent out 2 thrift shop paintings to be printed. Let's see if I can find those. Here's one. So there's a group in Tacoma called the Claw, the Cartoonist League of Absurd Washingtonians, and one of the things this was inspired by Banksy. We started taking old thrift shop paintings and adding our own contributions into the background, mainly just doing monsters. And then we started using these as a running exhibit. And we sell these things for ludicrous amounts of money, like between $350 and $500. And people love them. So I thought, oh, here's one I did that I thought I added Frank from Donnie Darko in. I thought this would make a fun print. So one of our Claw members is taking a course on photography, and I asked him to photograph some of mine first. There was another one that he did for me. But I doubt. Russ, can you name this movie?
With Big Ben in the background and the dragon? Is it was that one with Christian Bale? Probably not. I don't know. What is it?
I was about to say Beast of 1,000,000,000 Fathoms, but it looks more like one of those Loch Ness Monster ones.
Yeah.
It is.
Rain of Fire? That's, I think, the one.
Yeah. I think you're correct. I think this is the behemoth from 20,000 Leagues.
Mm-hmm.
I think
right on.
Called.
You also could have done the Rain of Fire scene where the dragon in the background. That would have been cool too.
Yeah, I thought about doing Rain of Fire, but as always, I was extremely lazy, and all I wanted to do was just add a silhouette.
Oh, okay.
Because it was there are some little details if you look closer. You can see the little flex, but considering, pardon me, but I don't think that this would sell very popular. This painting's only priced at like $150 because I don't think anyone would get it.
If you did the Rain of Fire, man, that would have been a good scene too. That would have done some. That would have done well.
Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and turn off my mic since I'm grossing everybody out.
It's epic phlegm time.
Seriously.
That was me. Russ, I was going to ask you, that event coming up in Portland, the one that I asked you about to ask the folks at Fandango about.
Oh, the GeekCon?
Not Yeah, it's something Geek Fest
Well, there was this
Geek
last
Fest.
weekend. There was the Oregon Coast Comic Con. There was one I went and did. I did one called I'm not even gonna mention the name.
It was that bad?
Yeah, like I have a lot of bad stuff to say about it, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. So it was just horrible. I didn't make back my booth.
Ooh.
It was more of a let's have all my friends come and watch me sing while I have some vendors there. Like, and this is like their fifth one they've done too, and it actually was recommended to me by another artist. And yeah, no, it was not good.
Did the other artist make money while he was there, or?
They didn't even show.
What?
Yeah, and in fact, people started leaving like before the day was even out. Like, I mean, it was a typical. It was actually in a a nice hotel too. That was the crazy part. Like, you'd think you'd get some pretty decent foot traffic, but yeah, no, it was. Yeah, I don't even know where to begin. It was kind of a mix between like a Renaissance fair slash like Comic Con, but just poorly organized. You could tell that there wasn't like, yeah, it was just more of a my friends and family are gonna come and they're gonna, and a lot of the people that were vending there were even like friends or whatever of the person that was putting it on. Needless to say, it just wasn't a good show. I wish I had rather done the Oregon Coast Comic Con. That would have been the better show. I had a few people that did vend at that show that was actually did really well. So bless you.
So, what do you know about the Geek Craft?
The Geekcraft, I haven't heard anything. I know that there's one coming up in November that'll be here in Seattle. I think it's like November 22nd. But I don't know about the Portland one. I didn't know if that was this weekend or not. It might be coming up sooner than that. But yeah. But if it was this weekend, I didn't hear anything about it.
Okay, I just heard someone get on Facebook said that they finally lined up their table for it and Crypticon. So I was wondering, I'm guessing it's farther down, but since they said it was in Portland, I'm kind of going,
Huh.
Are there two of them?
No, that like, well, GeekCon or whatever you sent me earlier. I looked it up just briefly. And it looks like it's like a traveling show. It's like if you want to be part of it, you got to contact them, and it's almost like it looked like it was juried. Not sure.
Well, that's how the World Horicon was. The World Horicon moves around.
Yeah.
And I was all scheduled to go to the World Horicon with my wife down to Portland, and I got all these new T-shirts lined up for it. And then you wouldn't believe this, but I came down with the flu.
Oh, jeez. Kind of like now?
Yeah, kind of like now. And so we had to cancel at the last minute. But there was a waiting line to get into that show. So they were able to resell my table immediately and refund me my money.
Jeez. That sucks. That would have been nice for you.
Yeah, it was right up my alley.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm going to go turn the mic off again. Sorry. I keep promising to do that.
Well, I know I just got here, but unfortunately I have an appointment, so I have to leave. But as usual, it's a pleasure, drawing with you guys, and I will see you guys all next Monday.
See you then.
Have fun at your therapist, Russ.
Yep. Physical therapist. Just to clarify, it's not like some shrink. I'm not sitting on a couch and telling him my woes.
This is from that car accident, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I'm still going. I still have issues with my shoulder and my back. So.
Okay. Well,
anyways, talk to you guys soon. Okay. Bye.
Yeah, Russ was driving home and somebody hit him really hard, and it hard enough that dislocated his shoulder.
Ah.
Yeah, I don't know if you've met Russ, but Russ is a big guy. He's a big, burly, barrel-chested guy, and not one that you associated with, dislocated shoulders. And he also, I think, he had some arm issues as a result and some back issues, but I learned a long time ago that if you ever get hit and they ask, well, are you okay? You have to be vague and not say that you're feeling great, that you're unharmed. You have to say something along the lines of, I might be. Actually, there's some better phrasing, but I'm so doped up on cold pills, I can't remember what it is right now. I dislike it when my wife buys the generic version of cold medicine because it's cheaper. But I think I like using the same brand so that I can gauge my mental state. For a while, I was using a long-term medication called Atenolol, and I had a fight with my doctor for like 2 years before he would take me off of it and put me on a different medication. And the moment he did, and within 2 weeks, I was able to focus, and my income level, which had dropped 50% the last 2 years, went right back up to where it was normally before. It was just messing with my head that much.
Hmm.
So if you're ever taking medication and you think it's messing with your head, just look at your bottom line and see, yeah. Now, Pat, you had a cold a couple months back, didn't you?
I've been dealing with all kinds of. I got sick, like semi-flu-like symptoms, and had a sciatica attack right at Christmas time.
Oh man, that sounds monstrous.
Yeah, it was not good at all. And to be honest, I would have traded. I would have been much more happier just being god-awful sick for a week rather than have sciatica pain for several weeks. So I would rather be violently ill than suffer that again.
So I recently watched 2 time loop movies. One which was called Happy Death Day,
Okay.
in which this sorority girl.
That's fairly recent, isn't it?
Yes, matter of fact, both of these time loop movies have been fairly recent. So the sorority girl, she ends up getting killed on her birthday. And she keeps waking up in the morning of her birthday. And she has to figure out who's killing her in order to break out of the time loop. And it was pretty good. It was a pretty good time loop movie. The other one was one called Naked. And it's about this man, and he's getting married, and he wakes up on the morning of his the day he's supposed to get married, and he's naked in an elevator. And he has to make it to the church on time, yada yada. And of the two, Happy Death Day was Oscar material compared to Naked. I had a lot of hopes for Naked, but
if you're looking for a trifecta, there was a movie I watched. This was several years ago, and it was called The Triangle.
The Triangle.
The Triangle. And it takes place in the Bermuda Triangle. And it is a time loop movie. And it's quite good. It's definitely like a classic horror film. And by classic, I mean it's, you know, there's blood and guts. And you're supposed to be, you know, freaked out and frightened by it. But I rather enjoyed it.
I did watch another movie that came out not so long ago. I think it was in 2016 or 2014, called The Signal. And about the three college students who, while helping a girlfriend move across country, find that they get on the trail of this hacker that hacked their accounts and almost got them thrown out of school. So, and then it switches over into sort of like an alien abduction movie. It was kind of interesting because part of it had like a found footage feel, but that was a red herring, which I was grateful for because I hate found footage films. But it was making you think, and it was kind of claustrophobic and paranoid, and I was pleasantly surprised by it. Apparently, it did pretty well as an indie film, and it had who did it have as one? It had a fairly good actor. I can't remember his name in it. Anyway, I would give it a 6 or a 7. But and I just watched an old movie called Unfaithfully Yours. Kind of wonderful little dark comedy set in the from the 40s with Rex Harrison as a conductor who comes to believe that his wife is being unfaithful to him, starts fantasizing about murdering her. What have you guys seen lately?
Well, I just finished watching a handful. I watched Asphalt Jungle and The Killing, and also the French live-action version of Beauty and the Beast that came out 2014. It's by the same guy who did Brotherhood of the Wolf.
Now, I've always been a fan of the Asphalt Jungle. That's one of my favorite movies.
Mm. It's well done. It gets depressing in places, and a little preachy, but it's weird. It's weird having the commissioner doing this sermon about the importance of the police when half the police that it's been shown in the movie beforehand were corrupt as heck. But I liked a lot of the character actors in it. The guy who played Doc is really good.
Oh, yeah, I was about to say, watching the guy who played Doc was that character lots of fun.
I looked him up. I don't think I've seen him in anything else.
Over this past weekend, my wife and I rewatched LA Confidential because I had recently finished reading the book for the first time. And it was interesting because I love the movie, always have. And after reading the book, it's interesting because it actually does a great job of like cutting out a lot of unnecessary stuff. And it's a really good adaptation.
No, I've never even read the book, LA Confidential. But I did love the movie.
Mm.
How about you, Bill? Did you read the book?
No, I should. I've had it recommended it to me.
Well, I did like a flurry of that era. So I read The Black Dahlia by the same author, and I read LA Confidential, and I read a kind of pop history book called Gangster Squad, which they made a movie out of as well. So I was in kind of a 1940s LA mobster gangster crime phase.
And yet you didn't watch The Two Jakes or Chinatown?
I've seen. I don't know as if I've ever seen The Two Jakes all the way through. Chinatown is wonderful. And we actually, the company that I work with is like a rare book company, and we will sell like a copy of the screenplay of Chinatown signed by Richard Town, which is pretty cool. But I wouldn't mind reading the screenplay for that movie too, to see what how much was cut out, how much was put in, and the changes made and stuff like that. And there's also there's a book called A Bright and Guilty Place, which is again kind of like a pop history book on the history of LA, and it kind of gets into some of the stuff that pops up in Chinatown, like the water rights and some of the interesting stuff that was kind of the subtext of the movie. I have no desire to go to LA, but it is a very interesting place to read about.
Mm-hmm.
Now, have either one of you watched the Cohen brothers film Miller's Crossing?
Oh, sure.
No, I keep hearing good things about it.
Oh, Bill, you will love it. It inspired me to go and memorize the song Danny Boy, much to my wife's regret. And I had this cat named Maddie, and she would give you an idea of how wonderful of a singer I am. If I would start singing Danny Boy, she'd come running through the house, jump up on my lap, and then start biting my wrist.
Oh dear.
Trying to, all in an effort to make me stop singing.
So as far as great versions, were you, I take it you were up there with Beaker, Animal, and the Swedish Chef?
I have a very rare set of pipes on me, Bill.
I'll take your word for it, but the way you're insinuating, I don't know whether that's a compliment or not.
Well, considering that my wife won't even let me hum. She, not even in the shower. She will not let me sing. When my family used to sing in church, and I think we all had 10 ears. And we didn't sing well, but we sure had a lot of enthusiasm. I often wondered if the rest of the congregation at St. Thomas More might not have appreciated the weekends when we went skiing instead.
That's sounding like that episode of Malcolm in the Middle, where they come back from their camping trip early, only to discover that the rest of the neighborhood has a town festival to celebrate their absence.
I really liked in that episode. It resonated well with me.
Hey, Mark.
Yes, sir.
Can you zoom out a bit so I can see a little bit more of what you're working on just for a quick second? Cool. I'm taking a couple screenshots of. I did one of Bill's, one of yours, and I'll do one of mine.
I'll talk so that I'm up on the screen. Or no, you're clicking on your screen, so you can do that, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I was just going through and I'm doing a frame by frame spec cleaning. This is a trick that a photographer taught me, that you start at the top left-hand corner and then you just go row by row by clicking on the corners, and you just remove little black specks like those, like this, that one. And I like to do it at 200% rather than 100% because I get a lot of little tiny things that I would otherwise miss.
I've seen some people give out the tip that if so you don't overthink like the really fine details that won't show up on a print anyway. I've seen some people set like the maximum zoom in on, I think it was probably on like Photoshop they were doing it, but you might be able to do the same thing on Clip Studio, where it would almost be like you can set the maximum zoom in on your workspace so that you're not like overthinking every little pixel. And I thought that was an interesting tip. And I think it had to go along with the same person was saying, you know, to kind of maximize your workflow and the money that you're getting for how much time you're putting in. They were like, you know, when, you know, you should develop an art style where you can almost have a very good sense. And I feel like I've heard you say this before too, Mark. You should have a sense of what you can accomplish in, say, 15 minutes, half hour, hour. And that might include, like, you know, full color too. But in a way that you can be like, you know, not shaving every little pixel, but like doing it so that it looks good. It'll look good in print or on the screen. And then, you know, if someone says, okay, I'm going to pay you for 2 hours of work, that you could kind of, you know, kind of have a workflow that fits how much effort you're putting in and kind of your return on investment, how much work you're putting in and how much money you're getting out of it. I thought that was pretty interesting.
It was very interesting. And it would make me go back and re-look and possibly redraw these ink drawings, because I'm spending nearly as much time cleaning up these ink drawings as it would if I just, look, I did this stroke with a half-dry brush and it's really raspy on the end, so now I have to clean it up. I'm having to do 2 strokes like this at a minimum when I should have just had to do only 1 stroke to begin with. And it's a very strong argument for why a lot of people are doing everything digitally these days, because these are old ink drawings that I did and scanned in, and they are going to be messy. But if I hadn't, if I had done them originally, well, also I'm doing, these were done in a coffee shop, you know, so on a clipboard, and I didn't have a tablet. But yeah, you have to decide, make those decisions. A faster way I could have done this is by going in and selecting, I'll do it now. Let's see. I'm switching over from bitmap to grayscale. Now I can select with the magic wand tool, and I'll go ahead and select on a black. And then I'm going to go ahead and select similar. This will find and you can see that every bit of black is being vibrantly held right now. If there was a speck, even those specks would be vibrantly held. Now, one of the things you could then do is if you do have little black specks, you can go in and then say, okay, expand your selection by 1% and then delete it. That'll make all the lines 2 pixels smaller because you've expanded the selection of white by 1, which means that if you've got a black line, that if the white's coming in on 1 pixel on each side of it. Okay, but what that does is it removes any of the little black the little 1 specks out there. They're gone. You then select the black, and you say, okay, I'm going to expand that all blacks by 1 pixel. You may end up rounding out some of the details, but you basically have the same line width as before, but you've gone in and you've cleaned up a lot more of the stuff faster. And I didn't do that with this, but there have been other images that have been extremely messy that I've taken that shortcut with.
I wonder, could you automate that into like a macro or something? If you knew that it was just a black and white image.
You know, I wonder if you could. There is a way of having Photoshop create a history of events. For example, let's say I've got a bunch of these images, and I know that all of these images need to be reduced down to a certain size, a width across by 72 dpi. I've got lots of, they're called actions. Here's my menu.
5:30.
For actions, and I've created different macros for doing different things. And most of them are sizing macros. Some of them are with individual clients. And the way you make a macro is you hit your record button. First of all, you go up here and you say new action. And then once you select the new action, it'll start recording everything you do. Then you save it. That action is then there. You can then use that action. Like in this action over here, I take I call it 600 to 600 dpi size. I take the image size. Basically it's doing an image size over to 600 dpi. It's then saving that file, and it's closing out that file. Now, when I hit the save, it's saving it into a particular folder. So I recreate that folder, and after doing the first one, everything else will save into that folder as well. And you can do this with I know people that use this. They do stuff that they. One guy has something that he calls his 5-minute facelift, where he has a series of macros set up to go in and do things very quickly, like softening the features of a woman who's got like lots of little freckles and moles, and you want to make her look a little bit better, or you want her to look a little bit younger.
Sure.
Or and he's got a macro for eyes, and he's got macros for various things. And then he sets those up so that he can just pull one set of macros up at the time, and rather than having to do all the pull down menus and have all those, put in all the settings, like the percentages and things, those are all pre-done because he has them down in an action. And that's a really nice feature of Photoshop. I use it quite a bit. Like here is a macro I have for Drawloween. where I convert from the ink mode, and then I convert it over to grayscale. Then I save the file down to a different size. Then I export it over as a JPEG, save for web. But when I close it, I don't save any of those features. I don't have to, because when I've exported it, I have the changed version already changed over. And by closing it without saving it, I still have my original file. And I use this thing quite a bit. I've been using this one since 2014 for when I have all my Drawloween stuff.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, it is 5:30. And for those of you who have been watching, this has been a phlegmy episode of Epic Sketch Time. I want to thank Russ, who joined us earlier, and Pat and Bill for coming in. And hopefully when we do this again next week, I won't be the one with a cold. Hopefully none of us will.
Hopefully.
Say goodbye, gentlemen.
Goodbye, gentlemen.
Goodbye.